International football officially began in 1872 when Scotland and England clashed at Hamilton Crescent. That was 152 years ago, and this video evaluates the strongest national team for each of those years. The analysis considers historical results, tournaments, ELO ratings and match reports. Some of my choices will undoubtedly surprise you, even if you're well versed in football history. If you're curious about a particular pick or want me to elaborate further, feel free to ask in the comments and I'll happily answer. After covering the top team for every year and decade, I'll dive into some intriguing statistics and insights from this research. Stick around for that. In the early years, determining the best team largely hinges on the outcome of the annual match between England and Scotland. Their inaugural encounter in 1872 ended in a draw, but match reports suggest Scotland played better in the first half and even had a goal disallowed. So Scotland gets my nod for 1872. The following year is straightforward. England won. However, Scotland reclaimed the title in 1874, only for the next year's match to end in another stalemate. Reports described the teams as evenly matched, but Scotland gets the edge due to England's inability to win at home. Scotland then triumphed in 3 consecutive matches, making them the clear choice for those years. England's victory in 1879 briefly interrupted Scotland's dominance, but the Scots responded with an even more impressive winning streak, capped by taking the first 2 British home championships. The 1886 decision is trickier. England and Scotland shared the home championship title, though Scotland had the better goal difference. Despite this, I lean toward England because they played all of their matches away, including a draw in Glasgow against the Scots. Over the next 3 years, the 2 teams alternated in defeating each other and winning the home championship. By the way, if it wasn't obvious already, Scotland was the world's top team throughout the 1870s and 1880s. In 1890, England claims the title using the same logic as in 1886. England then extended their dominance with a strong streak over the next 3 years, securing home championship wins and defeating Scotland convincingly. In 1894, however, Scotland emerged victorious, reclaiming their place at the top. The following years saw England and Scotland trade victories and home championship crowns. This period included 1902, a year overshadowed by the tragic Ibrox disaster. Deciding the 1903 winner is especially challenging. England, Ireland and Scotland all shared the home championship. England had the superior goal difference, but their advantage was heavily aided by playing all their matches at home. Despite topping the ELO ratings, excluding Argentina due to their limited number of matches, I rank Scotland as the year's best team, thanks to their away win over England. Ireland deserves an honourable mention for defeating Scotland on the road. England then dominated the following 2 years. Although they lost to Scotland away in 1906, England still clinched the home championship without hosting a single match, earning them the title for that year too. History was made in 1907 when Wales became the first team outside England and Scotland to be named the world's best, thanks to their home championship triumph. Argentina also defeated Uruguay twice that year, but it's difficult to assess the significance of those wins at such an early stage in history. Their moment of glory will come, though. Stay tuned. In 1908, England reclaimed the title with an unbeaten home championship run, achieved entirely away from home. They dominated even more convincingly the following year, albeit with home advantage. The 1890s and early 1900s firmly belonged to England. Scotland returned to the summit in 1910, securing a crucial victory over England on the final match day to counterbalance an earlier loss to Ireland. England then enjoyed a 3-year streak, winning home championships with varying degrees of dominance. However, 1914 brought a surprising twist. Ireland claimed the title and even defeated England 3-0 in Middlesbrough. Despite ranking only 17th in the world according to ELO, Ireland earns the title that year, as no other team showed the same consistency. Denmark actually had the highest ELO rating, beating England's amateur side and the Netherlands, but I still rate Ireland's success higher. The outbreak of World War I in late 1914 caused the suspension of football in Britain, making England and Scotland ineligible for the 1915 title, since neither played any matches. Denmark again topped the ELO ratings, but their wins were against teams that admittedly weren't amazing. Meanwhile, Argentina faced Uruguay 4 times, winning twice and drawing once, which is actually the best showing I could find from any national team that year. But without the war, England or Scotland would have been strong contenders. In 1916, England defeated Scotland in an unofficial fundraising match. While Uruguay won the inaugural South American Championship that year, I'm giving England the benefit of the doubt, despite the questionable competitive nature of their win, since they're done so dirty by World War I. Plus, they actually was the #1 team of the year according to ELO ratings. The following year, England and Scotland didn't play, leaving the door open for Uruguay, who defended their South American Championship title. Denmark and Hungary also deserve honorable mentions. In 1918, it was Scotland's turn to defeat England in an unofficial fundraising match. However, unlike the 1916 fundraiser, I can't overlook the dubious competitive nature of this game, as several English players were unavailable, and one Scottish player even appeared for England. As a result, neither team is considered for that year. Hungary performed well, winning all 4 of their matches, though 3 were against a still developing Austria. Ultimately, Argentina edges out Uruguay for the year's top spot. In 1919, the home nations resumed play with a series of so-called victory internationals after World War I. England defeated Scotland at Hampden Park, but lost to Wales. This year also saw Brazil win the South American Championship on home soil. However, Uruguay performed just as well without the home advantage. England narrowly claims the title, bolstered by their position as the year's ELO leader. Despite increasing global competition and the challenges of World War I, England retained their status as the overall best team of the 1910s. The Olympic football tournament of 1920 carries little weight for me, as no South American nations participated. Uruguay stands out as the clear choice for the year, being the top-ranked team and winners of the South American Championship. Wales earns an honorable mention for their victory in the home championship. Spain's strong performance at the 1920 Olympics propelled them to the highest rank in 1921, when they won over Belgium and Portugal. However, with only 2 matches played that year, it's hard to justify labeling them the world's best. Instead, I look again to South America, where Argentina as domestic champions take the spotlight. Although Scotland triumphed in the home championship, Argentina's superior ELO rating tips the balance. Spain remains unconvincing in 1922, for the same reasons as 1921. Scotland, despite another home championship win, falls short due to a loss to Wales. Meanwhile, Brazil claimed the South American Championship, but Paraguay's and Uruguay's records were almost identical and would have even been superior to Brazil's if 3 points were awarded for a win instead of 2. Although Uruguay didn't win a title, their overall performance, including a draw against Brazil and a win over Argentina, edges them past Scotland. In 1923, Uruguay's triumph in the South American Championship again outshone Scotland's home championship success. Uruguay's dominance was undeniable in 1924, as they not only won the Olympic football tournament, recognized by FIFA as a world championship, but also the South American Championship. In 1925, there's a serious case for Spain, as they won 5 games against tough opponents. They're also helped by the South American Championship lacking competitive integrity that year, meaning I can't really consider Argentina, who won that tournament. However, I'm going with Scotland, since they won 4 competitive matches, not just friendlies, including the home championship. Uruguay reclaimed the spotlight in 1926, sweeping the South American Championship, albeit in Brazil's absence, while Scotland mirrored this in the home championship. With Uruguay winning an additional game and holding a higher ELO rating, they edge ahead. The 1927 South American Championship again lacked competitive integrity, casting doubt on Argentina's win, but they're still the least bad alternative for the year. England, although victorious in the home championship, faltered later against Ireland and Wales. Czechoslovakia deserves a notable mention for going unbeaten in 10 matches, 7 of which were won. By 1928, Uruguay reaffirmed their dominance by defending their Olympic title and holding the top world ranking. In 1929, Argentina swept a reduced South American Championship and bested Uruguay, earning them the year's crown with the highest ELO. Scotland receives an honorable mention. Overall, Uruguay was the best team of the decade, with Argentina proving a worthy rival. In 1930, Uruguay naturally takes the spotlight as winners of the inaugural World Cup, defeating the top-ranked Argentina in the final. However, 1931 proves more contentious. Argentina's limited record of 4 matches and Brazil's single win over Uruguay aren't enough. England, despite sharing the home championship title, lacked consistency. Italy, unbeaten in 8 matches against strong opponents, winning 5, claims the year. Austria receives an honorable mention. Austria's victory in the 1932 Central European International Cup surpasses England's undefeated home championship campaign, especially as Austria played twice as many matches and England's win against Austria was narrow and on home soil. I'd fancy Austria to win in Vienna. South America's teams didn't perform enough to contend. Italy is the clear choice for 1933, thanks to their exceptional record. They also take 1934, despite controversies surrounding their World Cup win. England's triumph over Italy at the Battle of Highbury, while notable, isn't enough to overshadow their inconsistency that year. Austria deserves a mention but similarly falls short. In 1935, Uruguay's return to form in the South American Championship, highlighted by a 3-0 win over Argentina, stands out. Although Argentina reversed the scoreline later that year, Uruguay's ELO rating tips the scales in their favor. Italy resurged in 1936 with an Olympic title and an impressive unbeaten streak. Argentina shone the brightest in 1937, winning the South American Championship despite losing to Uruguay. Italy dominated 1938, winning all 8 matches, including the World Cup, though Austria could have been contenders if not for Germany's annexation. The 1939 title is complex. Peru won a reduced South American Championship, while England and Germany showed inconsistency. Ultimately, Italy edges out their competitors, despite losses to Germany and Switzerland, due to their impressive win record. Also, Italy was undoubtedly the best team of the 1930s. World War II overshadowed football in the early 1940s. Argentina claims 1940 for their high number of wins and top ELO rating. In 1941, Argentina again emerges as the strongest, securing the South American Championship unbeaten. Uruguay's emphatic championship win make them the best team of 1942. England's superb consistency earns them top honors in both 1943 and 44. Argentina bounced back in 1945 with a South American Championship win, maintaining momentum into 1946, where they also achieved the world's top ELO rating. England gets an honorable mention but lacks a title to rival Argentina's. The Argentinians stayed strong in 1947, but 1948 saw England take the crown with an excellent record. By 1949, Brazil, with unquestionable dominance in South America, claimed the year's title. Overall, Argentina was the standout team of the decade, though England may have claimed that honor had it not been for World War II. The year 1950 presents a unique situation. Uruguay won the World Cup in a big upset over Brazil at the Maracanã, but they were only ranked 11th in ELO even after their victory. Despite this, there are no better alternatives. Argentina played only 2 games, Brazil fell to Uruguay as mentioned before, and every other higher ranked team had an even worse tournament, if they even participated at all that is. Ultimately, La Celeste emerges as the logical choice. In 1951, most top contenders played few or no matches, which opened the door for Scotland. Although they suffered 2 losses, they defeated England at Wembley to win the British Home Championship. From 1952 to 1955, Hungary undeniably dominated, establishing themselves as the world's strongest team. Argentina deserves an honorable mention for 1952, but Hungary's superiority during this period is clear. While West Germany stunned Hungary in the 1954 World Cup final in one of football's greatest upsets, the Mighty Magyars had crushed the Germans earlier in the same tournament, further solidifying their claim to global supremacy. By 1956, Hungary's grip loosened as political turmoil during the Hungarian Revolution impacted the team. This allowed England, unbeaten across 9 matches against quality opposition, to emerge as the year's best. In 1957, Argentina rose to prominence by winning the South American Championship, drawing twice with Uruguay in another competition and splitting victories with Brazil in a third. They also started their World Cup qualifiers strongly, despite a loss to Bolivia, and had the second highest ELO rating after a somewhat inconsistent Hungary. Brazil began their golden era in 1958 by capturing their first World Cup, but 1959 presents a tricky case. Argentina won one edition of the South American Championship on home soil, drawing with top-ranked Brazil. A second tournament held the same year saw Uruguay crowned champions, though Brazil sent a weakened squad. All things considered, Brazil still stands out as the best team of 1959. The 1950s were fiercely competitive, with 6 teams achieving best in the world status during the decade. However, Hungary, dominant for much of the period, earned the title of the decade's strongest team, despite their failure to win the World Cup. In 1960, Argentina won the Pan American Championship, finishing 2 points ahead of Brazil, though questions linger about whether the strongest squads were fielded. Brazil had the highest ELO and defeated Argentina over 2 legs in the Roca Cup, even though both matches were away. They also thrashed Argentina in the Atlantic Cup, solidifying their position as the year's best. In 1961, Brazil maintained their dominance, winning all 5 of their matches, albeit without facing elite opponents. The Soviet Union had a strong year, including away wins over Argentina and Uruguay, but Brazil's overall consistency places them ahead. There's no debate for 1962. Brazil defended their World Cup title and were undoubtedly the best team on the planet. The choice for 1963 is far murkier. No team stood out as dominant. Brazil, the reigning world champions, were in a slump, and the Soviet Union achieved little of note. England had mixed results, losing to Scotland, who won the British Home Championship, and suffering an early Euro qualifier defeat to France. Scotland's 3 losses hold them back, while Argentina's 3rd place finish at the South American Championship, though respectable, is insufficient for top honours. Ultimately, England's relatively strong performances, ranking, and results give them the edge. Italy is a close runner-up. In 1964, Argentina was the clear standout, winning the Little World Cup with victories over Portugal, Brazil, and England. Spain deserves an honourable mention for their Euro title, but Argentina's consistency wins out. In 1965, Brazil was unbeaten across many matches against tough opponents and had the highest ELO rating, making them the top team. England's 1966 World Cup victory, despite the lingering controversy, capped an unbeaten year, securing their place as the best team. In 1967, the Soviet Union's impressive record, including an away win over Scotland, who beat England at Wembley, earns them the nod, though Hungary, Italy and Uruguay also had strong years. For 1968, Italy's European Championship victory makes them a contender, though their journey was less convincing due to struggles in the quarterfinals and the fact they won with the home advantage, despite still struggling. Brazil played and won more games overall, including against top teams, though narrow losses to West Germany are a blemish. Still, Brazil edges ahead. In 1969, England's strong results, only blemished by a narrow loss to Brazil in Rio, would ordinarily be enough to claim top honours. However, Brazil's perfect 9-game streak, including a win over England, seals their dominance. Brazil is also the decade's best team. Brazil continued their dominance in 1970, claiming their 3rd World Cup title. However, their momentum slowed down somewhat in the following year. West Germany performed well, but their progress was hindered by a defeat to a powerful Nordic team, while the Soviet Union remained undefeated over 11 matches, establishing themselves as serious contenders. Despite playing 2 fewer games, I still rank England's year higher, as they won the home championship and had a superior ELO rating. In 1972, West Germany proved themselves as the best team, finishing undefeated and winning the European Championship, which elevated them to the top of the world rankings. The decision for the following year is more challenging. Brazil only played friendlies, losing 2 of them, while West Germany suffered an additional defeat despite some notable victories. This year marks Italy's strong return, as they remained unbeaten in 8 matches, including victories over England and Brazil. West Germany won the 1974 World Cup, though their home advantage likely played a role, and they lost to their eastern neighbours and Spain. The Netherlands' only defeat came in that World Cup final to West Germany, a match that was fiercely contested. The Dutch also had 13 other matches, including impressive wins over Argentina, twice, Uruguay, Brazil and Italy. I have to pick them. The next year presents an even more complex picture. West Germany and the Netherlands, the leading teams of the previous year, failed to maintain consistent strength. Brazil won 5 out of 6 matches, but were eliminated in the Copa America semifinals, which makes them ineligible for top contention, given their limited number of games. England was a serious contender, with only 1 loss and 8 unbeaten matches. Italy also has a strong case. But the team that stands out slightly ahead of all others is Poland. Their only loss came against a formidable Dutch team, which in fairness was in a slump, but they triumphed 4-1 in Chorzów. It's a very close race between Poland, England and Italy, but Poland's higher ELO rating gives them the edge. This is exactly the type of stuff I was hoping to discover making this video. I knew Poland was great back then, but didn't think they were ever the literal best. However, in exactly 1975, it's fair to say Poland had the finest national team on the planet. The choice for 1976 is equally complex. West Germany had a solid year despite losing to Czechoslovakia in the Euro final on penalties, which counts as a draw. Czechoslovakia, while also a contender, is slightly held back by too many draws, and a loss to West Germany in their November rematch. My pick for this year is Brazil, who won both the Atlantic Cup and the USA Bicentennial Cup, finishing with 9 wins out of 10 matches. In 1977, West Germany suffered an early defeat to France, but they responded with a lengthy unbeaten streak against strong opponents. The Netherlands are a notable honorable mention, having gone undefeated against tough opponents, but they only played 6 matches, and West Germany had a higher ELO rating. Though Argentina won the 1978 World Cup, home advantage itself gave them a major edge, even if you give them the benefit of the doubt regarding corruption accusations. Argentina's 2 losses that year put them behind other contenders. Brazil, who only lost once and were unbeaten at the World Cup, despite failing to reach the final, topped the ELO rankings by a large margin. Despite their impressive performances, the Netherlands were inconsistent, so Brazil is my choice for the year. In 1979, West Germany takes the top spot for going undefeated in 9 matches and finishing the year with the highest ELO rating, although England is a strong honorable mention. The 1970s were an exceptionally competitive decade with 6 different winners. West Germany and Brazil were the best in 3 years each, and they both won a World Cup. With West Germany's continental title serving as a tiebreaker, they emerge as the decade's strongest team. For 1980, West Germany is the clear choice, having claimed the European Championship, solidifying their status as the best team of the year. However, I can't pick them for 1981, as they lost to both Argentina and Brazil in the World Champions Gold Cup. Uruguay, the tournament winners, defeated the Netherlands, Italy and Brazil, but their mediocre performance in the World Cup qualifiers and lower ELO rating hold them back. Despite their loss to Uruguay, Brazil's unbeaten streak makes them the top team of the year, but it's close. Brazil was exceptional in 1982, dominating the rankings, but they were eliminated by Italy before the World Cup semifinals in a major upset, with Paolo Rossi delivering a legendary performance. England, though undefeated in the World Cup, failed to reach the semifinals and lost to West Germany in a friendly. I rank that 1982 Brazilian team ahead of England, despite the latter's strong showing. Italy won the World Cup, but they were inconsistent, peaking at the right time. Overall, Brazil was the better team of that year. 1983 is another difficult year to evaluate. The Soviet Union were great, finishing with the highest ELO rating, but they failed to qualify for the Euros. England also missed the tournament, while West Germany qualified despite a loss to Northern Ireland. My pick for this year is Uruguay, who won the Copa America, but their inconsistency throughout the year prevents them from being a more convincing choice. This was really tricky. The 1984 pick is extremely obvious, as France won all 12 matches they played, including the Euro title. To be fair, they did have home advantage in all games except one, but they were definitely the best of the year. In 1985, France, England and Denmark are honorable mentions. One national team was more consistent than all of them though, the Soviet Union. Despite losing to Denmark in Copenhagen, the Soviets were triumphant in Moscow. In the absence of better alternatives, the Soviet Union is our best option. When it comes to 1986, it would be criminal if I didn't select Diego Maradona's Argentina, despite losses in 2 friendlies. In 1987, Uruguay stands out as the best team, winning the Copa America and defeating Argentina in Buenos Aires, though their limited number of matches complicates their selection. Still, they were the least inconsistent among the strong contenders, including England, the Soviet Union, West Germany and the Netherlands. Oranje's victory in the 1988 European Championship, along with their top ELO ranking, makes them the clear pick for that year. Brazil returns to the top in 1989 after winning the Copa America and defeating the highest ranked Netherlands. The 1980s were very competitive, but Brazil was the best in most years, despite not winning the World Cup. In 1990, despite the reunification of Germany, West Germany remains my pick, as they competed under that name for most of the year, which culminated in a World Cup victory. The 1991 selection is more contentious. Argentina's strong year, including their Copa America victory, outweighs Germany's limited success, despite their win over England at Wembley. France is a huge honorable mention for winning all 6 matches they played, but they were only qualifiers and friendlies, plus that Spain wasn't a powerhouse at the time, so this looks more impressive than it really is, but it's still of course a great accomplishment by France. Denmark winning the 1992 Euros basically eliminates all other European nations from contention, while the Danes themselves weren't consistent enough to be considered the best of the year. Brazil didn't prove enough either. In the end, Argentina is my pick due to going undefeated and having the highest ELO rating. They didn't face very strong opposition, but in the absence of better alternatives, they're the most reasonable pick for the year, while Italy is a big honorable mention. In 1993, Germany earns their first win as a unified nation, thanks to them winning the US Cup, being consistently good in friendlies against strong nations despite losing to Argentina, and being ranked 1 in the world. The Netherlands didn't lose at all, but the only powerhouse they faced were England, who were in a bit of a slump. Italy is another honorable mention along with the Dutch. Brazil is the undisputed pick for 1994 and 1995, even though they lost to Uruguay in the Copa America final in 95. The match ended in a draw after extra time, and Brazil's overall performance still warrants them the top spot. In 1996, Germany's win at the Euros and their top ELO ranking makes them the best team of the year. Brazil's dominance in 1997 makes them the clear choice for the next year. France has to be the 1998 choice due to winning that World Cup and even battering Brazil 3-0 in the final, albeit under controversial circumstances. In 1999, Brazil remained number 1 in the rankings, successfully defending their Copa America title and reaching the Confederations Cup final too, even though they lost to Mexico. However, Mexico was too inconsistent to be considered among the best. Throughout the entire 1990s, Brazil was definitely the best team as well. At the dawn of the new millennium, France emerged as the dominant force in world football. They claimed the Euro 2000 title with an extraordinary run and held the top spot in the ELO rankings. France continued their success the following year, winning the Confederations Cup and maintaining their number 1 ranking. England deserves an honorable mention, and Argentina could have been even more than that had they participated at the 2001 Copa America. In 2002, Brazil firmly established themselves as the best team, with no doubt about their supremacy. France successfully defended their Confederations Cup title in 2003, remaining unbeaten throughout the year, except for one loss to the Czech Republic, who also had an impressive year, an incredible year you could even say. Nonetheless, France's year edged out others, especially since they secured a tournament victory. Argentina and Italy are notable mentions in this period, along with the previously mentioned Czechs. The 2004 Euro victory by Greece made it difficult for other European teams to stand out that year, although there are strong cases for both Argentina and Brazil. Argentina finished with the highest ELO rating and averaged more points per game than Brazil. However, Brazil ultimately takes the top spot for surpassing Argentina in their head-to-head fixtures and winning the Copa America. In 2005, Brazil was ranked first and won the Confederations Cup by hammering Argentina in the final. Argentina were triumphant in Buenos Aires the very same month, as was Mexico, But Brazil still stands out as the overall best team of the year, though Italy is an honorable mention. 2006 presents a more challenging decision. The World Cup winners Italy is out of contention for me for being bad from August onwards, while the highest ranked team in Brazil was eliminated in the quarters. I know I picked Brazil for 1982 despite them not even making the semis, but unlike that year's team, this Brazilian side was not as good, even though it was still a great team, of course. France, however, had a better year, even without winning the World Cup. Despite having an aging squad, they defeated powerhouse nations on their way to the final and avenged their World Cup defeat by beating Italy in the subsequent Euro qualifiers. Brazil bounced back in 2007, winning the Copa America with a dominant final performance against Argentina. Italy and Spain are key honorable mentions, but Brazil remains my choice. In 2008, Spain broke the long-standing Brazilian-French duopoly with a commanding performance at Euro 2008, going unbeaten en route to the title. Brazil returned to the top in 2009, claiming the Confederations Cup and the highest ELO, which further cemented the Brazilians as the best national team of a third consecutive decade. Spain made history in 2010, winning their first World Cup. While Brazil, the Netherlands and Germany all had strong campaigns, Spain's triumph in South Africa stands out. In 2011, the Spaniards did lose to England and Italy, but neither of those two were consistent enough to be considered the best. Same with Uruguay, even though they're a big honorable mention, as is Germany again. But Spain has to be the choice. 2010 saw Spain further cement their legacy as the world's best. They won Euro 2012 with an exceptional performance, continuing their dominance in international football. In 2013, Brazil claimed a third consecutive Confederations Cup title, including a thumping victory over Spain in the final. The following year, Germany ended their drought with a World Cup victory, overtaking Brazil as the best team of 2014. 2015 was difficult to call. Germany and Brazil didn't perform well enough, while Chile were too inconsistent despite winning the Copa America. Argentina's loss to Ecuador on home soil hurts their case, and although Belgium and England were notable mentions, Spain ultimately emerged as the top choice. Spain's higher ELO rating and only one loss to the Netherlands put them ahead of the competition. It feels strange to pick Spain since they were past their prime at this point and far from special, but I really can't find a better alternative. In 2016, Copa America champions Chile made a strong case, but ultimately were not the best due to inconsistency. Brazil, ranked highest in the world, had an early exit from the tournament, while Argentina was hurt by a few defeats in World Cup qualifiers. Euro champions Portugal also failed to meet the standard required to be considered the best. France was the best of the year, despite not winning the Euros, especially when you factor in their good start to World Cup qualification and a friendly victory over Italy. In 2017, despite Brazil's solid year, the ultimate choice was Germany, who went on an exceptional unbeaten run and won the Confederations Cup, even with a squad that wasn't their strongest. France's 2018 World Cup victory places them as the clear best team of that year. In 2019, Brazil won the Copa America but were inconsistent in friendlies and lost to Argentina in the Super Clásico. Italy is a major honorable mention for winning all 10 games they played, albeit none against powerhouses. However, there is another team who managed that while also having the world's highest ELO rating, Belgium. Also, even though we're looking at each year separately, Belgium's case isn't exactly hurt by them beating Brazil at the World Cup in the previous year. Even though Spain peaked in the early 2010s, they were still the best looking at the entire decade. In 2020, the best year in human history, Brazil did win all 4 games they played, but nowadays that's not enough to be labeled the world's best. Despite losing to Finland in a friendly, France is the clear choice for me due to doing so well in an extremely competitive Nations League group, especially beating Sweden twice. I mean, that's up there with some of the all-time greatest accomplishments in football. In 2021, Argentina's undefeated run and Copa America victory made them the clear best team of the year, with Euro winners Italy as a notable mention. Argentina again earned top honors in 2022 with their World Cup victory, though France certainly deserves a shout for their impressive performance in the tournament too. In 2023, both Argentina and France had strong years, but with some blemishes. Argentina lost to Uruguay at home and France fell to Germany in Dortmund. However, France's year was overall the best in my opinion, though by a really close margin. Finally, in 2024, Spain is the undisputed pick after their remarkable performance at the Euros, while Argentina, as Copa America champions, remains a strong honorable mention. So far, Argentina is the best of the 2020s, using their titles as a tiebreaker, while France is a strong contender too. But this can of course change in coming years. Or not, we'll see. Sweden could rise up and be the best team from 2025 to 29. You never know, it could happen. Anyways, let's dive into the fascinating statistics and insights I promised roughly 4,000 years ago when this video began. Brazil has dominated the most decades, coming out on top in 4. England has claimed supremacy in 3, though their last reign dates back to the 1910s. Scotland is the only other team to have been the best in more than 1 decade, achieving this feat in football's early days. Meanwhile, Uruguay, Italy, Argentina, Hungary, West Germany and Spain have each led the world for a single decade, some more convincingly than others. It will be interesting to see who ultimately comes out on top in the 2020s. Widening the lens even more, Scotland had the most wins in the 19th century, England had the most in the 20th century, with the big asterisk that their overwhelming majority of wins came in the first 2 decades of the century, and France comes out on top in the 21st century, which feels counterintuitive since they're not the best of any single decade and they've had a couple of banter eras. Along with the first 4 decades, the 1920s had the fewest number of different winners, while the 1980s were the most diverse. Due to England's and Scotland's early dominance, they've earned the most victories in a single decade, followed by Brazil, Italy and Uruguay on 6. Believe it or not, Scotland enjoyed the longest win streak. England have been the best for the most years, but that largely stems from them being an early powerhouse, as touched on before. This is also true with Scotland. If only counting years from 1915 onward, when a non-British team first won, England and especially Scotland drop dramatically, while Brazil moves up to first place, and the entire top 3 becomes dominated by South America. If only counting years from when the World Cup existed, Brazil and Argentina remain in first and second, despite the latter losing 5 wins. But Uruguay's fall is quite big and enables France to reach the podium, closely followed by Germany. Hungary being in the top 10 thanks to their 4 straight wins during their Mighty Magyar era is really cool to me, counterintuitively putting them ahead of the likes of the Netherlands. Then again, the Dutch are the most infamous nearly men in the world, so maybe it makes sense for them to only have a couple of victories. France being so highly really caught me by surprise. Their first win wasn't until 1984, and they had to wait until their home World Cup before finally earning a second honor. Germany are slightly lower than I expected, but it's worth noting late bloomers France only exceeded them in recent years. However, the arguably biggest elephant in this room is Italy, whose ranking is very low for a 4-time World Cup winner. This is my theory. This video is stupid and I have no clue what I'm talking about. No. This is my real theory. Throughout football history, Italy has had a tendency to do the bare minimum, often focusing on defense even against weaker opposition they probably could beat if they played with more frenzy. But if a draw is enough, why bother going for the win? To summarize it even more briefly, Italy are almost always among the best team, but rarely at the very top. You may have noticed how often they were an honorable mention, for example. What makes Italy's struggles even crazier is that they haven't been the number 1 team, according to this video, since 1973, despite winning 2 World Cups since then, while England's drought has lasted 2 additional years. Italy could find inspiration in teams who ended long victory droughts, like, themselves, or Uruguay, Scotland, England and Argentina. Not everyone has the fortune of getting out of such slumps though. Maybe England and Italy will have to wait 117 years or more before they're the best team in the world again, according to some random Swedish YouTuber. Just like poor Wales. At least the Welsh aren't alone in this one-hit wonder club, with teams who have only been the best for a single year. Wales also belong in the category of teams who have been the best in the world despite never winning a major title. Sorry, I don't consider the British Home Championship a major tournament. However, the World Cup is a major tournament, obviously, and the team who wins that trophy is generally the best of that year, but not always. Italy holds the honor of being the only team to not be labeled the best in 2 World Cup winning years. If you're curious about more statistics, details, or general thoughts I have, ask in the comments. And if you're curious about who would have won the Olympic football tournament of 1932 had it been staged, watch this video.